Welcome! This is part 1 on how to film discussions. Before we do anything, we need to consider a basic fundamental principle. Thou shalt not bore your audience. The ultimate enemy of all our communication is monotony. A difficult word, I had to look it up myself, but the dictionary says tedious as a result of repetition or lack of variety. So anything that goes on too long makes the audience lose interest, fall asleep, or worst of all, make him watch something else, or WSE for short. I tell you, the fear of WSE keeps me up at night, thinking of all my efforts gone to waste, all that work, and now I've lost my audience. I bored them. I know what you're thinking. My topic, the people in my programs are so interesting, my viewers will never doze off, let alone go WSE. Not true, my friend. No matter how fascinating your production is, eventually your terrible production technique will wear him down and will get him. Luckily, there is an antidote, and that is called change. If you do something, a change in my video or a change in my audio, my audience is with me again. Again, I can hear you think, okay, I just now and then put some extra images on my video and I'm safe. It helps a little probably, but no, not really. Now here is a big secret. A change in audio is much more effective than a change in video. In other words, a program with one monotone voice going on and on cannot be saved with a few extra video images on top of it.
But to suddenly hear another voice, or a pause with some music or so, will catch the attention of your audience again.
A change in your audio track is much more effective than a change in your video. In practical terms, this means that a lively discussion, where people interrupt each other, where not one person talks too long, communicates much stronger, much better than one person giving a long monologue. Yes, your great content could save the day, but why make it harder for the audience to concentrate, to take it all in, by using long monologues? If you are serious and in the business of communication, the bottom line is it's all about variety, mostly in your audio track. So, how do we apply this? Let's say we make a video of a certain topic. And let's assume this topic is not something you can explain in a few minutes. It's more complex. It has many facets, sides, or viewpoints to it. So the question is, do we use a discussion or a teacher? We realize that often we can communicate the same things in both ways. A teacher can be more direct and to the point. A discussion is often a bit more indirect. What way is more effective? If we look at the importance of change in our videos, obviously a discussion is much more lively and communicates much better than a teacher. But it's also a bit more complicated to prepare and to make. Is it worth the expense and effort? The key question is, how will I distribute my video? A lot depends on who your target audience is. Show it to a small but highly interested audience, like students or a website. Using straightforward teaching might be okay. Your audience will forgive you using a weaker form of communication. But if you do not know the interest level, or maybe you have a larger, more mixed audience, or you are using broadcast, that balance quickly tips over to using discussions. There are two questions to ask. Who is your audience? Small but highly motivated, or a group with a mixed level of interest? Second question, how much time do I need to communicate my topic? If it's around a minute or less, even a mixed group will sit through a straightforward use of a teacher. But longer than that, the choice becomes easy. We have to use a better way of communication, with more variety. Over the years, I discovered that many people who make programs actually do not put much thought into who is watching. They are focused on what they want to communicate, not so much on who is at the receiving end. Or they are fixated with one type of viewer in their mind, but overlook the fact that their means of distribution automatically means they have a much more mixed audience. Why? Are they doing this just for the sake of making videos? Or are they truly serious and dedicated communicators? So to summarize, it starts with the topic. The first and foremost question to ask is, how will it be distributed? Then we ask, what is the level of dedication of our audience? Next, we adapt our program format, the length, the form, the level of variety to our audience. It is really worth it to put some more thought into our program formats. By the way, we will produce another series on how to film a teaching for those who are interested. Next topic. If we want to film talk shows or interviews, do we need a studio? Or could we just do it in a house or even outside? All three are possible, but all three have their advantages and disadvantages. Outside is often a good option. You do not have to pay for a building. Often you do not need any extra lighting. And you do not have to build a studio set. So this option is much easier and can save you a lot of money. But there are some practical disadvantages. A major one is noises. Let's say you are in the garden and there is always that stupid dog that is barking in the neighborhood, or that car that keeps honking, or that radio of the neighbors. Remember, noises that you cannot see where it's coming from on any of the cameras makes no sense at all to the audience. For instance, if you hear street noise while you see a street in the background, that's fine, that's totally acceptable. But if you hear street noise while you see a garden in the background, that looks very weird. But no, you know a perfect place. It's out of the way, it's quiet, great, wonderful. But you must stay outdoors with the whole crew for many hours, maybe even days. If you're making a series, that can be quite hard. And security can be a real problem. At least that is my experience after working many years in the Middle East and in Africa. Filming in a house is often done. It helps if the house is large, with all the camera and equipment and the extra people. Wonderful, no burning sun. There is power available. And, very important, there is an address where the pizzas can be delivered to. It is so much cheaper and easier than renting a studio. So why does not everybody do it this way? Well, often we still have the same issue with sounds. Those neighborhood noises that we are used to and take for granted, they can become very annoying in a series of programs. But the main problem we often have in houses is lighting. It's not that easy to light a scene just as nice as we can do it in a studio. So a house is sometimes more difficult, but not impossible. Yes, it is expensive and a lot of work to set up a studio. But it's a very controlled environment. The lighting hangs from a grid on the ceiling instead of using light stands. And it is very quiet. So when do we often prefer to use a studio? If we plan to film a series of interviews or discussions and do that on a regular basis, then it makes sense. When should we go elsewhere? When we can find a good location and when we have a limited amount of programs to make. Filming outside is a good option. When we get started, it may be a good idea to make a small series outside or in a home. We can fine-tune the presentation and the content of our programs and see what the response of our audience is, and then move to a studio at a later stage. In part 2, we want to talk about: are there professional standards? And how many cameras do we need? Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next episode.